Welcome to the Real Chili Podcast.
And the Golden Eagles of Marquette University in Milwaukee are bound for the Final Four for only the third time ever.
5 seconds left. Marquette down by one, trying to avoid the upset. Blue the drive, the left hand. It's good. 1 second to play. Vander Blue has put Marquette in front by one.
And I want to win every day as basketball players, as students, and I want to win every day, most importantly, as people.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Real Chili Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Lavender. I'm joined by Pete Mohan, Eric Pond, and finally, welcoming back Pete Worth. It is finally Big East Tournament Week, which means that you're going to be hearing from us a lot in the next few weeks. It's almost NCAA tournament time. And fellas, I don't know if you know this, but it also means that it's been 1 year since we came up with the idea for this podcast. How about that?
Woo! If I was Brian Henry right now, I would reminisce about a memory that was completely false of us sitting around in Arizona, maybe like smoking big fat cigars and drinking high caliber scotch. But that didn't happen. We were just drinking cheap beer.
As the Milky Way glistened above in plain sight.
Yeah. As we stand now, it's Big East Tournament Week. The Big East Tournament kicks off this Wednesday. After going 4-1 down the final stretch, Marquette will be a 4 seed. We have a bye on Wednesday and don't tip off until 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 Central on Thursday afternoon, and we are playing the 5th seed Seton Hall. The winner of the Marquette-Seton Hall game will very likely get a matchup against Villanova in the semifinals of the tournament. Fellas, we split our games with Seton Hall this year. Both were tough, physical contests that came down to the final couple of possessions. Both were 3-point games in one way or the other. Seton Hall is coming off a big win yesterday, Saturday, on the road at Butler. All indications are that this is going to be a tough matchup, not just for the players, but for the coaches in getting our rotations and our lineups down. This is going to be an exciting game, but it's going to be a tough game for Marquette at Madison Square Garden.
It's good to be back, boys. I missed you. Missed you all.
We missed you too.
But this game's going to be, in my opinion, just like the two games. I mean, dogfights. And we should have won both of those games, let's be honest. I thought this as we went along in the first game, and I thought it for sure as we were winning by quite a bit again in the second game, and then blew that lead too before pulling it out in overtime, that we were the better team. I don't know if that's true now. I mean, we've both improved, but Seton Hall has been improving quite rapidly. Winning 7 out of their last 9 games, including 4 straight. Angel Delgado leads the country in rebounding. Kadeen Carrington has really stepped up his game over the last couple weeks. It's gonna be brutal, man. It's gonna be tough. We're gonna have to box out, play extremely tough on the boards.
I got 2 words for you, neighbor.
Go on.
Matt Helt.
Helter-skelter!
The one thing that wasn't happening the first 2 times we played Seton Hall is that we didn't have this new lineup in, and we weren't relying as heavily upon Matt Helt. And something scheme-wise that I think that we might have talked about is between Helt and Fisher, if they're not able to corral a rebound to really make an effort to tip it out. When we were just sending guys one-on-one to the boards against Seton Hall, we're just getting destroyed. Mm-hmm. This is an opportunity to implement that rebounding scheme. And, that's how Seton Hall beats people, is with rebounding. Offensive rebounding, second chance points, and just bullying you in the paint. If we're able to get Helt and Fisher and the rest of the team active on the boards, I'm eager to see how tipping it out might lead to even some fast break opportunities if Seton Hall continues to send everyone at the boards and we're able to tip it out away from those big men. Similarly, on the defensive end, we need to be able to be assertive and send our guards in for rebounds as well. Our offensive rebounding opportunities in this game aren't going to be the ones at the glass. They're going to be on long bounces off of 3-point misses. I think we need to sort of set our sights on corralling all of those rebounds that sort of bounce out towards the middle of the paint, towards the free throw line extended, etc. If we can win those rebounding battles there in the middle and at least play them even in the paint in rebounding, I think that we have a great chance to win this game.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that analysis, Mohan. Looking at the game, our last matchup against Seton Hall on January 11th at the BMO Harris Bradley Center, We let Delgado pull down 19 boards, 13 offensive, 6 defensive.
13 offensive rebounds.
It's absolutely incredible to go back and look.
Wait. Just for Delgado or for the whole team?
Just for Angel Delgado. I mean, it's stunning. In 41 minutes of play.
Angel Delgado.
A baker's dozen of Delgado bombs.
He Delgado our ass in that game for sure. Fortunately for us, he only shot 3 of 12 from the field, which I think maybe helped a little bit. Yeah. Desi Rodriguez put up 21 shots. We all need to remember this was an overtime game that we ultimately pulled out the win in, but I think it's really notable that Luke Fisher and Sam Hauser fouled out of that game, and Helt still only played 13 minutes. Mm-hmm. This is going to be a different matchup. We're going to need to be aggressive, perhaps take a different strategy on the boards, tipping it out to the wings whenever possible. But Kadeen Carrington's going to score, and Delgado is going to pull down boards.
When they beat Butler just a couple of days ago, I just saw this stat online just a minute ago. The final 7 minutes and 29 seconds of the game, Seton Hall got every single available rebound. Butler didn't get one single rebound in 7.5 minutes. So they are unparalleled on the boards. And so, Mohan, you made a great point about, we've kind of resorted to tipping the ball out to our guards because we're not necessarily agile enough with our bigs to get a hand on it, or Sam Hauser or Caton. I don't know if that's going to be enough, though. I think Seton Hall is just that nasty. I think we're going to have to get, I think what it's going to come down to for us is we've been shooting so well with this new lineup change. We've been shooting more threes. We've been shooting more from the field, and our percentages have still gone up. I think this is going to come down to if we can knock down shots at a high enough clip, we might not need to get as many rebounds just because we're making more.
Yeah, and Seton Hall is good defensively, but I think that's because they're good on-ball defenders and they're good in the low post. They're not necessarily great at preventing the three. According to Ken Pom, just 103rd in the country in defensive three-point percentage. So we can get open looks on them. We just got to knock them down.
And they're just great at closing out possessions. You're not going to score a lot of points if you only have one possession and you don't get any offensive rebounds. So
going to be key for us as well, looking at our last matchup with them. We shot a really uncharacteristic 71% from the line. We need to hit our free throws, and we need to be shooting league best and, one of the best in the country, what we've seen the past couple games, if just across the season, if we're going to win this game.
That's a great point because Seton Hall is 251st in the country in terms of opponents at the free throw line. So Seton Hall not that great at keeping staying out of foul trouble and keeping opponents away from the line. So if we can convert at the line, neighbor, you just mentioned the agility of Seton Hall's defense and their ability to defend. They have a lot of length. Really, they start their lineup at 6'2", and even at the 3 spot, they're at 6'6" or 6'8", depending on who they put out there. So that's going to be a problem for us. One of the things on offense that we've seen since the lineup change on National Marquette Day, we've moved the ball so incredibly well. I don't know what kind of clicked for these guys, but the ball doesn't stick anymore. And it's drive and kick, and the ball movement has really been beautiful to watch. So the extent to which we can continue that and get them on skates as much as possible, I think could help to alleviate some of the pressure that their defense puts on.
Oh, well, absolutely. We're 7th in the country in offensive rating, for a reason, or offensive efficiency, I should say. That's because we have 7 guys that are averaging 8.5 points per game or higher. We have a lot of talented, capable scorers. Each one of those 7 guys capable of going off for 20 points in any game, which is awesome. It's just fucking awesome.
And we're 5th in the country in effective field goal percentage. We shoot the lights out.
Right. Yeah. And then, if Luke Fisher can alleviate some of that pressure from the three-point shooters by having a pretty solid game, offensive game down low, and even Helt has proven that he can be a factor. He's not going to probably go out for 10 against Seton Hall's front line, but he can put the ball in the bucket here and there, and that'll help. And Luke Fisher, I just have to say, guys, against Creighton, looked more engaged than he has all season.
Oh.
Very well
done, sir. Well done. Big shout out to the big man, Luke Fisher.
It's going to be interesting to see. You saw on National Marquette Day that Fisher got the start over Helt, which was a first in several games, and Fisher outpaced Helt by about 10 minutes in playing time. It's going to be really interesting to see if that was a move just for National Marquette Day with Fisher, or if they're going to revert back to starting Helt and Helt getting the lion's share of the minutes. Either way,
did you say the head and the heart?
The Helt and the heart.
I didn't. Maybe I
easy on the indie tunes.
I think either way, we're going to need solid minutes from both of them. Whoever is getting the fewer amount of minutes is still going to need to be solid. Maybe not necessarily in the points category, but boxing out and being physical down low. And that's something that Helt has shown he can do, even if it is in limited minutes.
For me, this is all about the point that Eric made earlier, and that's foul trouble. That's what our big man rotation has to be oriented around for this game, and I think that's why you might see Helt come out with the start, just because we can't afford to have Fisher go down early with 2 fouls. At the very least, Helt is a foul sponge for Luke Fisher.
Yeah.
He's protection so that we can have an offensive post presence late in the game, or if we go to overtime, like we beat them last time in overtime without Fisher. That was sort of Helt's coming out party, wasn't it? Or was that a different overtime game?
I remember him having a couple good plays in that game, but it was still like, oh, well, old Helter Skelter's out there for a little bit. We scraped that one off by the skin of our teeth, but I think it wasn't until like a couple games later that he really made his presence felt.
Yeah, neighbor, I think you're right. He had 2 boards, 4 fouls, 1 point. He had made 1 of 2 free throws, and that's really it in that game for him.
I played some tough defense too, and I think might have had some key. I think maybe it had a key charge.
Helt's double-double that we were all raving about, his 15 and 10 night. Came against St. John's just a couple of weeks ago.
And on the note about foul trouble, I think we need to add Sam Hauser to that conversation.
Absolutely.
When you talk about Helt and Fisher, Sam's been on a roll lately. I think he had 11 and 7 yesterday at Creighton. He looks better with the ball. He's been shooting well from the 3-point line. And he, again, fouled out of that game against Seton Hall along with Luke Fisher. So we need him to be in there. We need him to be fighting for every rebound as well. And we need him to play sort of the Sam Hauser, aggressive rebounding shooting role.
Seton Hall is just absolutely terrible at free throw shooting. And what was bothering me in the previous 2 games against them is that we would give, and other games too, is that we would give up easy and ones by just ticky-tack fouls when we could actually go for the guy hard, follow them hard when they go up to the basket, and don't allow them to make an easy layup. Force them to get to the free throw line and make those free throws because they are bad at it.
Yeah, just a quick note, Sam Hauser fouled out in 14 minutes of play against Seton Hall. So looking for something a little better this time around.
Does anyone foresee a possible lineup that includes Helt and Fisher out there at the same time if we're really struggling at rebounding?
I've been wondering if we're going to see that all season, and this could be it. I think, at some point in this postseason run, it wouldn't surprise me if you see it out there for stretches, and I think if it's going to be in the Big East tournament, it's going to be this game, right?
Especially if you have Rousey and Howard out there at the same time, you really need to beef up the interior presence.
So that's the question, and this is something that Brian Henry deplored us to bring up on this podcast, despite the fact that he couldn't be here, is that in stretches, both times we played Seton Hall, they were really effective at being physical with Marcus Howard, playing him well off screens, and really shutting him down for stretches of the game. And I think that goes for Rousey too. So what do you guys think in terms kind of looking at the matchups across this roster? If we run out the most frequent lineup that we've had over the past few games, we're likely going to see Rousey at the point, Howard at the 2, Caton at the 3, Hauser at the 4, and Helt at the 5. And that's a lineup where we're certainly at the 1 and the 2 giving up a lot of height right off the bat. Do you think that's something that we'll be able to do, that Wojo will gamble at, running a small lineup out there, even if only to test the waters at the top?
I think when you have 2 guys that shoot that well, that really shoot the ball from distance and from the line, the way that Rousey and Howard do, some of the conversation about height is perhaps negated. I think obviously on the defensive side of the ball, it's a little bit of a different story. Like you said, it becomes maybe interesting then to play around with some sort of Twin Towers lineup with a Helt, really a Helt-Fisher combination. But, as far as effectiveness, on the offensive side, I think when you have guys who can shoot like Howard and Rousey, you can really score a lot of points, and that takes away some of the sting of maybe the height differential you're giving up in your guard spots.
How much do you guys think that taking Carrington out of the game is important? Would you put Jawan in there on him, stick him on him, follow him around the court just to shut Carrington down? Because, I mean, he's really the motor on offense, and then Delgado cleans it up or starts a new possession. I mean, how crucial do you think it is to shut down Carrington?
I would like for Jawan Johnson to be shadowing him. It reminds me of Seton Hall. Reminds me of another team we played early in the year, Georgia, who had J.J. Frazier and Yante Mayton as their two main scorers, and really the other guys were kind of non-existent. However, if Jawan's guarding Carrington the entire time, Desi Rodriguez is really their only other guy that is a viable offensive threat. I mean, a significant one. If we are able to shut him down, shut Carrington down, force them to get Delgado the ball, I think that's going to be our best route for success.
Desi Rodriguez toasted us last time.
I think you got to put JJJ on Carrington for stretches, but I also think you throw some Dwayne Wilson at him, who can be a dog on defense. Yeah. I think when you stick JJJ on someone for a whole game and say that's your number one priority, I think he gets worn down, and I don't know if he stays locked in mentally for the whole game. I think we've seen that with JJJ both on offense and defense throughout these years, is that staying completely locked in for the whole game can be a struggle sometimes, despite the fact that he's done it before. So I think maybe even you put Caton at times just to give Carrington different looks.
Well, in those first two games, we used Haney Cheatham a lot too on Carrington.
I would love to see Cheatham out there.
If we can throw him back out there just to be kind of a defensive specialist, because obviously he has not shown much from the offensive side, then that's gonna help us out a lot if he can provide some valuable minutes.
Well, he didn't even get a chance to show anything valuable the other day. He got 3 minutes and didn't log a single stat.
There's something going on there.
Yeah.
I think he may need to be in this game to cover Desi Rodriguez. I think we're forgetting a little bit about Desi Rodriguez hanging 30 on us on January 11th. He's a versatile scorer. He's a threat as well. It's not just Kadeem Carrington, and he's a little bit bigger and is going to require.
I guess that shots down my point.
He's going to require coverage and attention as well. I think we just can't forget about Desi Rodriguez. 30 was his season high against us. His last couple games look like 21 against Butler, 27 against Georgetown, 19 at DePaul, 22 at Xavier.
So my last point about Carrington and Delgado is completely fucking false. So
Jeez.
I
still love you, neighbor.
Freshman Miles Powell hit the key 3-pointer in their win against Butler yesterday. So that guy's starting to put things together too, which is scary.
Thinking about the pressure that Seton Hall applied to us when we were in the 2 games that we played against them when we're bringing the ball up the court, I think they did a pretty effective job. Who do you guys trust most out of Marcus Howard, Rousey, and maybe Caton Reinhardt at bringing the ball up the court with pressure, with traps? For me, I think they all have their strengths, but I almost like someone with a little more size like Caton who has the lengthier experience, because I think Rousey can be a little shady with some of his turnovers and some of his ball handling. I think he's great in moments, but bringing it up at certain times under pressure, I think he has a tendency to buckle.
Yeah, I don't think Rousey is as strong with the dribble as Howard is. Not that he's a poor ball handler,
right?
But I think that there's times where guys can reach in and tip the ball away a little easier on Rousey. I thought that we did a pretty good job of breaking the press at the end of the Creighton game.
Yeah.
I think we were utilizing Hauser pretty well, either right before the timeline or right after, to sort of get the ball to him. He keeps the ball high and then distributes it to another ball handler who can dribble across. As long as we're not putting ourselves in trap situations and we're aware of where guys are coming from in the trap, I think that we'll have no problem beating it against Seton Hall, just because I think we look comfortable in it right now, and Howard showed some creativity with his handle anyways to break down a defense. So.
I was surprised in that second Seton Hall game. Mike, you mentioned it right at the beginning of the question, of Caton and his capability to bring it up with composure. And I do like the fact that he has a little size and he can handle the ball pretty well to avoid some pressure and get the ball in the middle of the court as opposed to the sides, like Pete said, to avoid those traps. So I think a good combination of Howard and Reinhardt bringing it up. I'd be totally fine with that. I think they can. I think they can do it without getting rattled too much.
So before we get to final predictions here, we had a couple other things that we wanted to get through. Let's see. We got a couple of questions from Twitter, and I think we've covered them. Well, we've covered a couple of them. One of them, though, is thinking about the NCAA tournament, and we don't have to get deep into seeding predictions yet. We do plenty of that on a pod in about a week. How much do you think a win or a loss versus Seton Hall affects our seeding or maybe getting into the tournament? Do you think that has a big impact? Do you think that should be a rooting interest, or do you think we're a lock either way?
I'd like to think we're a lock either way, Mike, but at the same time, I think every win is a big win at this time of the season, and you can never be too safe. So I think it's got to be in the back of everyone's mind right now. I think Seton Hall potentially is in a similar position. They have 20 wins. I believe we're both 8-8, 500 in the conference. But a little run in the Big East tournament.
10-8.
10-8. So a little run in the Big East tournament's really not going to hurt us, obviously, in our chances. So it's got to be something we're thinking about.
Seton Hall is a quality opponent, and I don't really think this game swings it either way at all. Obviously, we want to win it, man, because we have not made it to a Big East even a Big East final, let alone won a Big East championship. Now, if we had beaten Providence one of the two times, we could look back and look back at those games and say woulda, coulda, shoulda. But it would have been really nice to squeak out one of those Providence games, and then we're on the opposite side of the bracket to Villanova. But this is where we're at. Seton Hall's a good team. I think we're still in. No matter what, mostly because a couple bubble teams lost both today and yesterday. Illinois State got beaten by Wichita State in the Missouri Valley Conference. My boys, Illinois, Fighting Illini, they lost at Rutgers. Woof. On Saturday. So there's a couple. Those are a couple possible bubble teams that lost. I think we have a better resume than the other few teams that are Joe Lunardi's last four in right now. Vandy, who we beat, obviously. Xavier we beat twice. Wake Forest, who only has like 3 top 1 to 50 RPI wins, and USC, who plays in the Pac-12, and they're very top-heavy conference. So I like our chances either way.
Guys, I have to say that I think that we are in. We finished above 500 in a really tough conference. People are saying, second or third best conference in the country this year. We knocked off a number 1 seed earlier in the year. Swept Creighton, swept Xavier. It's a tournament resume. I don't think that anyone can look at this team and their accomplishments and pick it apart and say that they're out. There's no real bad losses. We got slaughtered by St. John's and Georgetown. Those were embarrassing, but it's not a resume killer type loss. Seton Hall is going to be more of the same, and unless St. John's or Georgetown pulls a miracle win against Villanova, we're playing teams the rest of the way in the Big East tournament who also are basically locks. And I think that you kind of said it before that maybe we have a little more to prove. Seton Hall won the tournament last year, so they are the reigning champs. We have to knock them off first, but all of these teams that are kind of already a lock and sort of, I don't want to say that the Big East would ever just sort of waltz into the tournament, but I think that we do have an opportunity here, not having to play any teams that this is their last game of the season and they're going to really go all out with their personnel and everything to kind of beat you. So I think that we have a good shot at making a little run here.
All right, so we are officially out of time and don't have time to discuss the all Big East teams that were announced earlier today. Safe to say that no Marquette player made the first team, second team, or honorable mention. Marcus Howard did make the Big East all-freshman team, but he was not a unanimous selection. Probably not a snub there. Maybe you can make an argument for one. But since all Big East teams don't matter, we're not going to dig into that anymore. So, fellas, I want to turn it to you for final predictions for the Seton Hall game coming up. One note before I throw it to you that I want to make. Don't forget, Seton Hall won the Big East tournament last year. Yes, they lost Isaiah Whitehead, but they have a lot of returners, guys on their roster this year who know how to win this tournament. So, Pete Worth, since you've been away for so long, I'm going to throw it to you first. Quickly, what is your prediction for the Seton Hall game coming up this Thursday.
I like our chances. I like the way we're moving the ball. I think that Seton Hall's defense is good, but not great. And same with their offense. I think if we are shooting the ball like we have in the last few games, that they will not have a chance to match up with us. We are leading the nation in three-point field goal percentage with 43%, which is another eye-popping statistic that's going to help our resume, I think, come Selection Sunday. I think we pull this one out by 6, beat the defending Big East tournament champs.
Eric Pond.
This is a tough one, guys. I've been going back and forth on this in my head here. I'm nervous. My gut tells me Seton Hall has obvious advantages on the glass, and that, again, makes me nervous. I think if we stay out of foul trouble, I think if Juwan keeps it going the way he has the past week, and I think if we shoot 40, 45, 50% from 3, I like our chances. I'm going to say Marquette by 4 over Seton Hall, and I think we see a big game from Juwan Johnson.
Pete Mohan.
Like we've mentioned throughout the show, this is a tough matchup strictly because of the rebounding abilities of Seton Hall versus our rather diminutive lineups that we put out there. And remember, this is a quasi-home game for Seton Hall.
Right.
And for me, the Big East tournament is all about the first game you play there. It's about getting accustomed to those rims, and the depth perception at MSG is a little strange. Our shooters over the last couple years have struggled to get a feel at Madison Square Garden. But I will say that if there's any year that our shooters would get adjusted quickly to a set of rims, it's this season with the number 1 3-point shooting team in the nation thus far. And I think that we get a feel early and we let it fly against Seton Hall. I'm going to say Marquette win by 7 points. Huge win to set up a big matchup against Nova.
I think Marquette has tremendous momentum right now. I think we are playing incredibly well on offense, as everyone can see. However, looking at the schedule over the past few games, I'm not convinced that's come against the best competition, the likes of which we'll see, like Pete Mohan just mentioned, Seton Hall, basically a home game for them, the big stage. We got to get used to the rims. I think we'll have a good shooting night, but I don't think it will be enough to overcome Seton Hall and the momentum that they have coming off their big win at Butler. So I think it's going to be a 2-point loss for Marquette, which I think is fine for our tournament chances, and I think will still get us into the tournament. But I think it's going to be a tough loss, and I think rebounding is going to play a big role in it. I just don't think we're tough enough to battle inside away from home.
And one more point. It's a 1:30 matchup.
Central time.
Yeah, Central time. Yeah, 2:30 Eastern. So not necessarily accustomed to that starting time. In a Big East tournament or just any conference tournament play, those first round matchups always seem to start a little lackadaisical.
Yeah.
So if we can really come out with energy, I think that's going to be huge for our chances to get out to a lead in the first half. And, we are very susceptible to losing leads just because how porous our defense can be. But if we get out to a good lead and with great energy, I think that's going to be huge.
Big game.
Big game for Helt.
Big game for Helt, that's right.
Helter Skelter.
All right, folks, so we will be coming back to you on Thursday evening, win or loss against Seton Hall. We'll be back Thursday evening with a new pod to keep you up to date and get ready for the next round of the Big East tournament or the NCAA tournament. This is going to be a fun week, a fun few weeks, let's hope. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Real Chili Podcast. Signing off for Pete Worth, Pete Mohan, and Eric Pond. I'm Mike Lavender. We'll talk to you next time.